Thank you guys for tuning in to another flawlessly executed episode of the Jock Talk podcast. As you can tell, we got a special guest here, Jordan Polk, joining us live from. Are you in Indy right now?
I am in Indy right now.
All right, Jordan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for us?
All right, Jordan Polk here. I guess I don't even know where to begin. Working in Indy right now. I'll be here till February, till I go out to West Coast.
East Coast, isn't DC and East Coast?
That is the East Coast. It is.
Oh boy!
I might get to go out to LA though for the Rose Bowl.
Oh wow! What a guy! I know who you're picking to join you, so I guess we're going.
Oh yeah, I'll see you.
All right. But yeah, we have a great college basketball preview show. It starts here in, what is it, the next week or so already?
I think November 11th or 13th, one of those two.
So we got, about 2 weeks here. Jordan Polk, superstar at Ripon University. So the one of us three, we think, from professional expertise, the one of us with collegiate basketball experience. But
I think 0.05. It's a game.
Ooh, that's 0.05.
The people who are going to be listening here, so it counts. So we're going to start off, obviously, like every week, probably more than either who gets all the a lot of the credit and a lot of the attention. So out of those three, who do you think is the bad player, or who does it need to be for the Badgers to live up to for them this season?
Polk, I'll let you start on this one. You're our guest. Might as well go first.
I think the best player is Nigel Hayes, but I think their most valuable player this year is going to be Ethan Happ. I think he's going to be the difference for him. I'm hoping he continued to grow in this offseason the way we watched him during the regular season last year. I mean, the kid can flat out play. I think he led the Big Ten, or was first and second in steals as a big guy. I mean, that's just not right. But I think Hayes is definitely the best player overall on that team, as long as he remembers what his strengths are.
Yeah, I'm glad you... Oh, go ahead, Brock.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that you said. Ethan Happ is probably the most valuable. We saw it as a freshman. He came in and just put out incredible numbers from freshmen, especially a freshman big man, not used to the game like a lot like Nigel Hayes was used to the big bodies bouncing around there. So to see, he said he's growing so much more, and hopefully over the next. Seems like the Badgers always get that man, but he was early. I hope he can. I think he can be one of the best Badgers to ever come out of Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think what Pokey said, that Nigel Hayes needs to realize his strengths. He really did not do that in the tournament last year, focusing a little bit too much on perimeter jump shots. He was ice cold, and I don't know if he had one good tournament game last year. I'm trying to think of one, and it's not coming to mind right now. But I agree. I think, like I said, I think Bronson Kading needs to just be that. He needs to be the leader. He's the guy that I would want taking the last shot, obviously, out of the three. But I think they have more depth this year as well. I mean, they're returning all their starting five, so any kind of depth that they have, the guys that were playing last year. I know Khalil Iverson is going to be a big one. He's a guy who can jump out of the gym.
Human highlight reel.
That's right. We saw it a couple of times last season, but he's also a really good, really underrated, I should say, really underrated defender, especially.
Yeah, that's one of the guys I think that needs to step up this year. Like you said, he's coming off the bench. I think he's something that the Badgers haven't had in recent years that I can't remember, and that's excitement. Like I said, highlight reel type plays, the monster dunks, put back jams, everything. The Badgers aren't usually known for that, so I think it brings the fans, and will get the fans even more crazy in the Kohl Center. I think it's just going to be rocking at home. I feel like the Kohl Center is back to being one of the hardest places to play. Last couple of years, it's been a little iffy. We've lost some games that we probably shouldn't. I think it gets back to that. Being ranked number 9 starting off the season is huge. Personally, I think it might be a little high, but I think overall they can end up being a top 10 team as long as they all play together. like you guys said, play to their strengths, I think they will be fine. They usually play inside-out game. I don't think that changes whatsoever. Koenig, Showalter need to hit their shots. Like, they were inconsistent at times, so I think that's going to be the biggest thing, is finding a consistent all-around team game inside out.
I'll tell you what does worry me a little bit about the Badgers, though, is that the depth at guard, it's not there right now. Actually, I mean, Showalter's easily the best defender on that team. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to depth, though, there really isn't a lot in the guard. I mean, we got Iverson, who's way too athletic to be on this Badger team.
Yeah.
And
he's playing in Milwaukee at Marquette.
Probably.
Mean, how we stole him, I don't know, but he's a spark that really comes in. But I don't think he's a shooting offensive threat. He's a playmaker, a big guy to get the guys going and stuff. So I'm interested to see this year, though, who kind of steps up for the Badgers. We always have that one player that comes out of nowhere. I kind of see it being a guy, sophomore by the name Ferris. I kind of could see him stepping in as a shooter for the Badgers and actually getting some pretty good minutes.
Yeah. I think when looking at what would cause the Badgers to not live up to expectations, what I had was exactly what you hit on is depth, especially if they get any kind of a big injury.
Or foul trouble.
If the Badgers can stay healthy and keep their 5 or 6 man rotation in games, the very worst I see the Badgers finishing is, at the very worst, is a 4 seed in the tournament at the end of the season. I can see them maybe finishing as low as 3rd in the Big Ten. Maybe that's if everything goes wrong. Obviously, if everything goes right, the Badgers are one of the top 2 teams in the Big Ten. I know a lot of people are pretty high on Indiana, this year, but the Badgers can stay healthy and live up to expectations. There's no reason why they shouldn't win the Big Ten.
Yeah, doesn't the Big Ten have 5 teams in the top 25 right now?
I think it's. What is it?
There would be Purdue, Wisconsin,
Indiana,
Maryland. I think it's
Maryland.
5.
Yeah.
Michigan State.
Yep. That's your 5.
And I think
Ohio State.
Michigan and Ohio State are getting votes also.
Yeah, they're also getting votes. So you put that 7 out of how many? 12 teams now? Rutgers is in. So 7 out of 12 teams are considered for the top 25. Big Ten is going to be a force to reckon with this year, from top to bottom, pretty much, besides your couple teams here and there. But Big Ten.
And there are 14 teams in the Big Ten right now.
14? Oh, wow. So half the. Yeah, I lose track every year. They add, like, hey, we added 2 more. Oh, all right. So, yeah, I mean, half the Big Ten is in the top 25. So that definitely counts for something. Your schedule is definitely stacked with teams of high quality, which could lead to struggles, especially, we all know, we say this all the time for college football, but college basketball is another beast when it comes to playing at somebody's home. You go on the road anywhere in college basketball, it is a hard place to play. It's loud. The fans are crazy. You never know what you're going to see out of the fans. That's the one thing I love about college basketball, is the fans get so crazy and into it.
Oh, yeah.
Any team, 1 through how many teams there are?
321, I think.
Okay, 1 out of 321 teams, they could all go down just because the fan base is so crazy.
Yeah, you mentioned their schedule. Just looking at it, they play Syracuse non-conference. Obviously, you're going to play Marquette non-conference. Creighton, the Fighting Doug McDermott's. And then they have the Maui, I believe, is their preseason tournament, or their Big Ten tournament with anywhere from Georgetown, and it's a really stacked field. I believe Oregon is in that field as well. Oregon's a top 5 team to begin this year. But the Badgers always seem to lose one of those games that they shouldn't lose. Yet last year before Greg Gard took over, they had a couple losing to Marquette and UWM. So if the Badgers can avoid losing those in-state games, Marquette's been down these last couple of years. They're on their way back up, but not losing those games that they shouldn't lose is big for the Badgers. Looking at what professionals have the Badgers projected as anywhere from 21 to 23 wins, so 23 and 12 or somewhere around there is a prediction.
Yeah.
So
last year they had the Badgers finished 20 and 12, so you would like to see an improvement on that, especially not losing much. You would hope for more, especially with the growth of Ethan Happ. I think that's one of the biggest things, to see how much he grows in his sophomore season. So you would hope to see 24 wins plus. I think 24 wins, I think, is a very reachable number for this Badger team this year.
I think when I came in, I looked at what's just the regular season, not the Big Ten tournaments, 29 games, I think. Something like that. And I thought 23 and 6 is about what I thought. They're going to have at least one loss where you just kind of look at it and go, really?
Yeah, it's going to be early. I think it might be the Creighton game.
I mean, Creighton's ranked 22nd, though.
Yeah, so. Creighton's a good team, but I feel like that's a team that we should beat.
Definitely.
So I think it might be. Do we have Providence on the schedule this year? I thought I saw them, but I'm not sure.
Let's check it out here. I don't think so. Providence is one of those teams losing at Chris Dunn, losing Ben Bentel. They lost by far their two best players. So
definitely.
Let's see. Bring up the Badgers schedule, but let's see. Central Arkansas, Chicago State, Prairie View A&M. They do play Tennessee, which is, it's an SEC team. Mm-hmm. They are playing at home, but early in the season.
You never know.
At Marquette. They do play Oklahoma as well. However, they do play the Florida A&M Rattlers, who, according to Sports Illustrated, are the worst college basketball team in the entire country.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Oh, jeez.
They do have that going for them.
I could see one of those games being like losing to Tennessee at home, where you're just like shocked that they lose it. But
yeah,
I don't think Tennessee is supposed to be very good this year at all, are they?
I don't think so.
No.
And they do play Creighton at Creighton. They play at Marquette.
Okay. At Creighton would be. You don't want it, but it's acceptable because it is at Creighton. Creighton's a good team, like we said.
Right. Definitely, it's a tournament team, but I think if all goes right for the Badgers, if we're looking at the highest the Badgers can go, I can see them losing 3 or 4 games all season if everything goes right. If Ethan Happ, Vito Brown, so I really like Vito Brown. If he takes another step forward, I know later in the season he had that stepped away from the basket a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I think if everything goes right, 26 and 3, 24 or 5, somewhere around there is.
I think we lose at least. I think we lose one at Michigan State. They always play well there. Michigan State. Tom Izzo has that team always playing good. Doesn't even matter who they have, but they are ranked. I believe 12 this year. So you have.
It's going to be a totally different Michigan State team too.
It definitely is. But it's Tom Izzo. He's one of the all-time greatest head coaches of college basketball. So they always have those players like those Denzel Valentine, Draymond Green type players. They're going to have that coach on the floor, and they're always a hard team, especially at home. Indiana's a good one too.
Team. Michigan State for me is an interesting team. Like you said, they lost their floor leader, basically their leader in just about everything in Denzel Valentine. I believe Costello graduated.
Yes.
Last year.
It seemed like he was there for 30 years.
Yeah, their best player is going to be a true freshman who's a freak athlete. It's a lot different. It's not going to be like a Big Ten basketball type thing. So that's interesting to see. You mentioned Indiana. I think probably the player of the year in the Big Ten comes from Indiana. Thomas Bryant. He's a really good center. I'm surprised he wasn't one and done last year, but I was looking at some Ethan Happ highlights, and Ethan Happ took him to town I believe it was the Big Ten tournament or later in the regular season.
One
Think,
question for both of you guys. I said it earlier. What's your take of the Badgers being ranked 9 to start off the year?
I think it's too low.
You think it's too low?
There's no team in the country returning all 5 starters with. I mean, they didn't lose anything on a team that played better in the second half of the season than almost any team in the country after Bo Ryan's retirement got out of the way. I think it's too. I think there's a couple of unproven teams ahead of them. I think. I mean, and 9's really high, obviously, but I think it's too low for the Badgers. It could just be me being a homer, but I mean, returning all 5 starters on a team.
It definitely helps.
On a team that went to the Final Four 2 years ago, or was it 3 years ago to the Final Four, 2 years ago to the championship, and this past year to the Sweet 16. Just had a little glitch there.
I think, honestly, I was surprised they were that high in the aspect that they never get any respect at the first polls. Where I thought they should have been ranked was about, I would have guessed 7 before the rankings came out, just because they returned everybody. I'm okay with the 9th spot. Everybody that's ahead of them, I mean, is pretty good. The only one I question a little bit is Xavier. They got a lot of talent there, but I don't know if they're 7 talent. But I was pleased with the 9, I think.
Yeah, you can never be upset about a top 10 preseason poll at any stage, at any collegiate level. Like you'd be like, oh, we're top 10, great.
I think right now the Badgers are the only college in the nation to have a football team and basketball team in the top 10.
Yep, and we have our women's hockey is number 1. I believe our
volleyball was number 1.
Yep, and I think they're 3 right now. So we have 4 collegiate teams in the top 10, which is incredible.
It's a good day to be.
Not only that, but just looking at the rankings, Wisconsin and Louisville are the only 2 teams in the country with teams in the top 25 in both football and basketball. Louisville, I think, in basketball is 15th or 16th, and obviously football is going, well, best season they've had in a while.
Lamar Jackson. Just saying.
Right.
Just
so
saying.
we talked about the Badgers. We talked about it. Where do you see them going into the NCAA tournament? Like I said, I think for me, at worst, they're going to be a 4 seed. I think they go in as like the second 2 seed. So I think they rank about 6 or
so
7.
you're pretty much saying they're going to stay right where they're at in the rankings over the course of the season.
Yeah, I think
move up a couple spots.
Maybe verging. Yeah, I don't think they get a 1 seed. I think there's a lot of really good teams that I don't expect to fall too far.
The freshman talent this year in NCAA is outstanding. We have a lot of freshmen coming in, especially John Calipari says this is his best
he says that
freshman team. But I know that, and it usually is true every year. It just seems they keep getting better. But the thing with basketball, every year now, it is becoming a huge sport. So you see these smaller schools getting some really good talent because they can't get into a Kentucky, or they don't get accepted in Kentucky because they already have their 7 stars. So they're like, oh, I'm going over to Xavier or a smaller school. So that's why when it comes down to the March Madness, it's awesome to watch because there's these players that might have got rejected by these big schools because of all the talent they already had, and they're coming to prove a point, and it is amazing. March Madness is one of my favorite times of the year, just to see all these college kids going after it and seeing all the passion in the game, which it somewhat lacks in the NBA for 80 games of the season. So that March Madness is one of my favorite because of the passion and all the emotion that just goes into those 2.5, 3 weeks is incredible.
So where do you have the Badgers, or what do you, if you had to guess right now, Brock, give them a seed going into the tournament?
I would agree with you. Somewhere in the second, maybe second seed, third seed, easily. I would say that if they win the Big Ten and then win the Big Ten tournament, I could see them getting a 1 seed. But they have to, and that's a tall task.
What about you, Polky?
Looking out of their last 5 games of the year, I see them losing. I'm gonna say they lose 2 out of their last 5, and that's gonna hurt them. So I think they go into the tournament, I'd say, with a 3 seed.
All right. Getting these marked down for record.
Bragging rights.
That's right. All right, so we hit on the Badgers enough. I know we each have, there's a couple teams or a couple players that I know I wanted to talk about at least. The teams to watch that I have, Gonzaga is, I think, going to be really good again this year. And then Florida. Florida got a transfer. I think he's the grandson or the nephew of Rick Barry. Shoots his free throws underhand. He's a really good scorer. So 2 teams who kind of underperformed last year to keep an eye out for. But my player to watch has been a really good player for 3 years now at Florida State. Xavier Rathan-Mayes, I think, is my dark horse. We talked about our dark horses for the Heisman. He's my dark horse for the John Wooden Award as the player of the year in college basketball. He can light up the scoreboard. He just needs to get the rest of his team to step up to his standards.
Oh, go ahead.
I think my team to watch also is Gonzaga. I mean, they're big inside again. They got a kid. They got a transfer that can finally play again. I think they got 2 transfers or something like that.
Yep.
So they're actually going to have some 3-point presence this year to balance out that offensive attack. My watch out for team is Florida State. I think they're going to be pretty decent.
Not even scripted.
I like Dwayne Bacon and Jonathan Isaac coming in as just a freak of an athlete. My player to watch, though, and I can't stress how much I love this guy. I mean, he is everything I like to see in a college point guard. I mean, Monte Morris from Iowa State. He's got to be probably one of the smartest basketball point guards I've seen in college in a long time. And Iowa State, I mean, they're going to be good, but they're going to be down after all they lost from last year. But I think this kid averages probably 22 points, 6 boards, and 6 assists.
Wow.
And I think he reminds me a lot of Malcolm Brogdon out of Virginia.
Steal for the Bucks.
For sure.
He was a steal in the second round.
I think this kid goes late first round, early second, and I think he's NBA ready, and he's going to be a real big steal this year for somebody.
Yeah, I didn't really have a team to watch this year. What I think because the college basketball is so wide open, like I just touched on a little bit earlier. I have a surprise team that was in the top 25 that I was confused on. I didn't look into it a lot. I was just looking at them, looked at their schedule, and they didn't play anybody. They're not going to play anybody. It's Rhode Island. Last year they finished 17-15. This year, I don't know if maybe they returned 4 of their 5 stars. I don't know. I didn't go that deep into it. I went through their whole schedule. Not one ranked opponent do they play. You could argue the best opponent they play is Providence or VCU or even Dayton. I don't see a 21 seed or a 22, whatever they got ranked. I don't see that out of a Rhode Island team. But I did not watch any tape, anything on them. I don't know. Maybe they have the best scorer in the league. I don't know. But I just don't think they deserve to be in the top 25. I could be totally wrong. Maybe they come out, go 30-0, come into the playoff or come into the tournament and win some games. I don't know. That's just my opinion on the top 25 this year. Like, I was confused by that. I thought maybe I read something wrong. I read it. I was like, I'm pretty sure there's at least one more team that deserves a spot than them.
I think, like you said, I don't know much about Rhode Island either. What I do know is their coach is Danny Hurley, who is a really, really good college basketball coach. Other than that, like you said, I don't know about the Rams.
I haven't heard much anything on them at all.
So I was in 25, 17 and 15 season. They didn't do anything in the tournament, did they? Did they even make it?
I don't.
Were they the NIT?
I don't think they did.
I didn't even look. So, but anyways, sidetracked a little bit. A couple players to watch. Bigger names. I picked senior, or this guy's a junior, out of Notre Dame. VJ Beecham. He was a big-time player for Notre Dame last year. He came into his own late in the season. He came off the bench, I believe, for most of the season, and then in tournament time, he started picking it up and playing very well for them. They lost a lot of talent on Notre Dame, so now he is the guy. I think he is going to be. He's going to have a lot of weight on his shoulders, and it's going to be. He's that veteran that I like to see in college basketball that you don't see that much anymore because everyone goes 1 or 2 and done. So seeing a junior coming back and hopefully he can produce. I think he's one of the become tournament time, being tough and gritty. Victories and the player. Right when I say during the tournament last year, hopefully he can carry it over. I think he is a raw. Nova needs that now. And I just think he could be one of the most fun players to watch this year.
Yeah, they're losing Archie Diacono, who was, he wasn't really too much of a shooter, but ball handler, could shoot when they needed him to. So I agree with that. The biggest question for me in college basketball, from a player standpoint, from someone who's not a freshman, he had a ridiculous freshman campaign. Probably would have been a lottery pick if he wouldn't have went into the draft. Yeah. Had an awful season last year for the Maryland Terrapins. But Melo Trimble, if he gets back to where he was as a freshman, I think he has a shot to be one of those guys who are in the Player of the Year candidates. And I think if he plays the way he did as a freshman, that's one of those reasons why I don't have the Badgers penciled in for sure as a Big Ten champion. But where do you see him winding up at the end of this year? Is he getting a lot going into the draft as a lottery pick again, or is he coming back for his senior season because he can't get it together?
I see. I think Maryland. I don't think they finish in the top 25, but I do think Trimble carries that team. I think he enters the draft. I think he goes about 18.
Yeah,
that's outside of lottery.
Yeah, that sounds about right. He's a good scorer. He's a talent, definitely. If he succeeds, the team succeeds. That's the whole thing. So if they end up finishing third in the conference, getting into the tournament as like a 6th seed, make a little bit of noise and win a few games. If they make the Elite 8 or something like that, every game in the tournament will determine his stock in the draft. If they early out, he's 20th or something. But if he gets up to Elite 8, Final Four status with that team somehow, make an epic run, he can be 10 to 12. He's a fun player to watch.
Yeah. Maryland's, Jordan, you mentioned it. I don't see them finishing inside the top 25. they're one of my disappointing teams this season. They lost Diamond Stone, who wasn't he wasn't a ginormous factor as much as he could have been. They lost Jake Lehman, who was a really good all-around player for them. But the other team I have as a disappointing team is Virginia. Now, I still think they're going to be really good this year. I don't think they finish inside the top 10, and the main reason is I think people underestimated how good Malcolm Brogdon really was at Virginia. They weren't a high-scoring offense, but if he was at a team where they ran up and down the court, he could have been a guy who was scoring 20, 22 points a game last year. So I think Virginia finishes outside the top 10. I don't think they make a deep run in the tournament, but that's my other disappointing team this season.
The real thing is what's his name? Parentes, right? That's their guard. They're gonna be their starting point guard. I think that's his last name. He shot 47% from the field last year. So if he can get it going, he will be their main scorer. But like you said, Malcolm Brogdon is probably one of the biggest losses and one of the hardest to replace. Like, you're always going to replace players like Kentucky always filters in players. They're going to have, and Duke, they get number 1 picks. Oh, we got another one right here. It's just Virginia doesn't have that because Malcolm Brogdon, I feel like, should have been in the first round. So you lose a first round talent with not that recruiting to get another player like that. It's hard to replace him.
I think my team that's going to be a disappointment that's in the top 25 right now is West Virginia. I think they come in. I think they're going to steal somebody's spot to get into the big dance. And then I think they get upset first round. It's a team that, I mean, the way they play could work, but none of the kids are there long enough to buy into the whole system. So they usually just end up beating themselves at their own game with the trapping, and then they usually end up having more turnovers than they cause. And that's really what killed them last year. One team I'm very interested about is Arizona. There's a ridiculous amount of guard talent on that team, but you can't start 5 guards.
Yeah. You could in college.
I'm interested to see how they go about it. You know, if they can figure out a system to get those guys as many minutes as possible. But I could see it turning into they finish the end of the year at 3, or they finish the year with 10 losses.
Let me ask you this, something I wasn't really planning on asking, but if there's a team in the top 5 that you see having just a down season, maybe not necessarily missing the tournament, but whether if it's not winning their conference or finishing like Kentucky a couple years ago finished as an 8 seed when they were preseason number 1, but between Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, Villanova, Oregon, do you see any of those teams, or which of those teams do you think has the biggest opportunity or the biggest chance to fall?
Duke. It's easy. Duke. They do have a couple of really good freshmen coming in, but one is injured. I think he broke his foot. I don't know. I don't keep track of them. I just think the ACC is always stacked, and I'm not gonna say they're gonna lose, be out of the top 25 like they were. What was it, last year or 2 years ago? I don't think that's gonna happen. I think they will lose a handful of games that end up determining you're not winning the ACC. You're gonna lose. I could see them losing 6 games. Just because the ACC is very well rounded, it always is. Every ACC team plays very well against each other when it comes to conference play. From top to the bottom, I think ACC and Big Ten are a couple of the hardest conferences to watch in college basketball because they're so competitive, and it's so hard to pick one definitive winner from each one. So I definitely say Duke, but I could also see Nova. I feel like they have talent. I just don't. They always seem to fall. I don't know what it is. They always seem to fall to some team that's not very good, and that just ruins their ranking.
Are you sure that's not the UNC
Oh, no.
fandom inside of you?
No, it isn't.
For me, the team is Oregon. Jordan, you mentioned it. Arizona has a chance to be a pretty good team this year. Cal has one of the best returning players in the country, in Ivan Robb. Sorry if I butchered his name, but and then I think the best freshman in the country and a guy who's going to be my pick to be the #1 overall pick in next year's draft, and Markelle Fultz at Washington. So I think Oregon has that chance to maybe finish 3rd or 4th if other teams live up to expectations. Obviously, they have to fall and not live up to their own expectations, but Oregon is that team for me.
I think the most likely is Oregon, but I'm going to go out on a limb here. I mean, I could either be really right or really wrong with this one, but I'm going to say Kentucky. I'm going to say we've seen it in the past from Kentucky that they get so many freshmen that are just so talented that there's not enough basketballs on the court for them all.
Yeah,
and it was that team that the Badgers faced in the championship, Final Four, whatever it was.
Final Four.
That was, I mean, they got in the tournament. They squeaked in with an 8 seed, but the reason they did so well in the tournament was when you hit that point in the year, you're not freshmen anymore. And I think that's going to hurt Kentucky early. I think they have a lot of close games, but I think they might have 2 or 3 losses 12 games into the year.
I definitely could see that. It could be bold. It's bold to a lot of people because of all the freshmen they have, and that starting 5 is huge, I guess. But I mean, like you said, we've seen it before, and I definitely agree with that. I could definitely see that happening, 100%.
Who's your pick for best freshman in the country?
Ooh, I have to look at that real quick.
I got 2 guys I really like. You already named one of them. Fultz out of Washington. I mean, this kid, he was the most valuable player on the whatever team played overseas this year, whatever, out of the college kids. And I mean, he's going to be good. Washington is not. I think that hurts them. It's awards at the end of the year. My favorite overall, though, is the kid out of Michigan State, Miles Bridges. This kid is freak length. You know, he can do it all. He's so athletic. But what really gets me is Tom Izzo, for the very first time ever, brought a freshman into media day, and it was this kid. He's just so poised. He's I mean, the kid's not 18. I mean, the kid's got to be 23 if Tom Izzo's bringing him into media. I mean, he's my freshman of the year in the Big Ten. I don't think with Michigan State, I don't think they're going to give him freshman of the year in the nation, but I think he'll be top 3.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's so many. You got like how many from Duke to even pick from? It's tough because we always have those 5 names like you guys all named that we assume will be a big name, but let me go through here real quick because I know a name, I just can't think.
Lonzo Ball from UCLA, and then Harry Giles from Duke. I think those are like my 2A and 2B. I think.
With that pickup for UCLA, I think they can actually stay in the top 25 all year long for the first time in a while. I think UCLA finally returns to being a competitive team.
Yeah, you mentioned Harry Giles from Duke. He is hurt as of now, so I don't know how many how many he will actually be out. I do like Malik Monk from Kentucky. I think he is one of the most intriguing. He might not be the best player, but he's the most intriguing. He is a highlight reel waiting to happen. And one player, Dennis Smith Jr., he's going to NC State. He tore his ACL last season before his senior year, and he's still one of the top freshmen this year. I think if he can come back 100% healthy, he can be incredible to watch. Like I said, there's so many. It's hard just to choose one, especially with how diverse every player is. And it's hard to pick somebody from Kentucky or Duke because there's 5 of them or 4 of them. You can't, like, one's going to stand out or 2 of them's going to stand out for the first half, and then the second half someone's going to come in. It's like Embiid and Wiggins. I never heard Embiid's name for the first half of that season until he made a couple huge plays, and they're like, Embiid's really good. And it's college basketball, I think, is back to being a freshman takeover, especially with some of the big names.
And this year is just ridiculous. There's so many
talent. The talent is huge. It is ridiculous. Even a kid from Kansas, Josh Jackson, because Kansas is so under the radar because of Kentucky and Duke and all them. So there's, like you said, there's your guys, there's guys I named. I think Josh Jackson probably has some of the highest potential that I've seen out of a lot of players. I think he will surprise the most out of all the names that we said.
Yeah. Does a freshman win Player of the Year this year?
It's hard not to say yes.
No. I'm going to say, I think if Villanova's good, I think Josh Hart. Or, I mean, I'd love to see my guy Morris up there, but that's only if Iowa State can, ball a pretty good year.
Brock?
It's tough. It really is. There's some good upperclassmen that are coming back to prove a point, and then there's some freshmen that are just crazy athletes. So I'm gonna say no. I just because the freshman field is so wide, spread out, and everyone's going to try to put on their best as freshmen, that they might overplay, especially with this new generation of players we're seeing. That if they just play basketball, like we saw when Wisconsin beat Kentucky, we just saw old school basketball beat the new school players. So that's why I like to see. I like to see the old school players show up and play well.
Brock, you're gonna hate me, but you gotta stay on the podcast. But Grayson Allen,
he sucks. Overrated. He's just like Draymond Green, kicks everybody in the nuts.
Hey,
here's my take on Grayson Allen. All right. Do I like the kid? No. Would I want him on my team?
No.
Absolutely
not.
The kid averaged, 21 points a game last year? Like 6 rebounds. He's 6'5". He's scary athletic. I don't think he makes that good of a pro.
No Duke player does. Except Kyrie.
I think, he's the type of player that you just hate, but if you're coaching and he's on your team, you absolutely love him. And I think if Duke has a great year, I think he is up there in the top 4, top 3 for his name being Player of the Year.
Come on now, Brock.
Nope. Nope. Justin Jackson's better than him.
I'm going to give UNC a little love real quick, though. I think Joel Berry has a big year. I think he
carried that.
Forget who Page was.
He really did, especially in the playoffs. He showed that he's ready. He's ready to be the leader of that team. And this is his year. This is his year to show what he's really made of. And I think I'm glad you brought up UNC because
You wanted to get some hometown love.
I thought I'd get him going a little bit, Matt. Sorry.
because that team, it was such a heartbreaking loss that I feel like a lot of those players were like, screw it, we're going to the NBA. Justin Jackson did it. Kennedy Meeks did it. I think Joel Berry did it. And then, but you know the new rule: you don't sign a agent, you can come back. So none of them signed agents. They've seen that they weren't material for it, or they weren't going to. They didn't get drafted high enough for their liking. They all came back, and I think that will play a huge factor in this year. I think Kennedy Meeks needs a big year. He had a huge freshman year. Last two and a half seasons, whatever it was, has been just a straight disappointment. We expected so much out of Kennedy Meeks. He's a huge body. He did lose a lot of weight. I think we thought last year he was finally getting into the body. We saw it, or like getting back into that, understanding his weight. He showed sparks of it in that tournament, and I think he was one of the bigger reasons why they played so well in the tournament. And like you said, Joel Berry. But I mean, you can't. It's hard to replace Marcus Page and Bryce Johnson. Those are two huge names, huge scoring, huge rebounding, huge blocking, defensive plays, everything that you needed. They lost a lot, but I think they just re-upped with a lot of talent. I think Joel Berry's ready to step up. Justin Jackson, I think this is his big year to step up. The team is long. They play defense. Theo Pinson is a big loss with an injury, but I think overall that UNC team can be scary, especially come tournament time.
Yeah, I know. What are your expectations for the Seahawks this year?
Oh, I think they get back to this tournament. Nobody talks about the UNCW, University of North Carolina Wilmington Seahawks. They played Duke.
Seahawks.
They played Duke to what was it? 92-86 game, 87. They played them down to the wire. A powerhouse Duke team versus a D1 like low class team, and they took them to the wire. And a lot of people don't know this. They didn't have many seniors. I think they had 3 seniors on that team. Granted, they were some of their best players, but they had freshmen starting last year in that tournament game against Duke. The only thing that really will hurt the Seahawks I think they will make it back to the tournament. The only thing that'll hurt is they don't have that huge size. They have one guy who's 6'9", and then I think a 6'8", and then it drops down to 6'5". So the height is definitely not there, but what they lack in height, they make up for it in their defense intensity. Their players just play 120% on defense. They are some of the hardest working players that I've seen on the court. They play well together as a team. A name you might recognize. Tell me if you know this name. Kevin Keats. Familiar name? No. He was the assistant coach behind Rick Pitino at Louisville 3 years ago.
Was he the one that got all the strippers for them?
Probably. He might have. But 3 years ago, he leaves a powerhouse in Louisville, which I think he was there when they won the national they won the national championship or went to the national championship game. What was it? They won, didn't they? I believe so. Whatever. He left that school to go to UNCW, and he has resurrected that team. Like, they have the biggest turnaround in any Division I basketball team ever. They went from barely winning 10 games to winning back-to-back CAA conference championships.
What is that the Colonial Athletic?
Coastal
Atlantic?
Something like that.
It's like the opposite of the ACC.
Pretty much. Pretty much. But they have a couple players. CJ Bryce, he was a freshman last year, averaging 10 points, 4 rebounds off the bench. He will be starting this year. I think he takes a big leap. Jordan Talley played very well at the end of the year. He was, and they're also returning their leading scorer, and he can score from anywhere on the court. He is a shooter. He's a slasher. He's everything, and he is very impressive. And they also added a couple very versatile freshmen, a couple the better freshmen in the area or in the state of North Carolina and surrounding areas. They brought a guy in who averaged a double-double in high school. He is 6'5", averaging 22 points, 12 rebounds. So I think if all these new players buy into Keats's philosophy on defense, this team can make noise in this tournament. I think they will win the conference championship, make it into the playoffs or into the tournament again. I think this year they win 1 or 2 games and solidify themselves as a tournament team for years to come, especially with Kevin Keats at the head of it. I think they could end up being that small school Cinderella story like a VCU or a Florida Gulf Coast that just surprised everybody. I think watch out. Like, if you see UNCW on that tournament bracket, you might want to pencil in their name at least once for a win, especially if you look at the matchup.
You heard it here first.
Hey, I plan on at least giving you some videos. I plan at least going to a few of the games this year. It's just going to be crazy this year. I think they have a chance to. I think they have a great chance to make it back to this tournament and win a game. I think they showed Duke not to overlook this team. And like I said, they brought back a lot of talent. They brought in a lot of talent. They should be a fun team to watch, especially if you watch it live against a team in their conference and outside of their conference. I think they're on the rise as a small D1 school.
All right. Jordan or Brock, do you guys have you have your Final Four set? Do you have your way too early Final Four predictions?
I don't. I don't really.
I'll tell you what. 2 Big Ten teams will be in the Final Four.
All right. Which 2?
I'm leaning, for how much I'd like it to be Wisconsin, I think it's going to be Indiana and Michigan State.
All right. I don't necessarily have a Final Four. I do have Gonzaga and Wisconsin in the Final Four. But watch out, these 3 teams will make it. It's hard to say Sweet 16, or it's hard to say Elite 8, but these 3 teams will make it to the Sweet 16. Clemson with Deron Blossom game. Cal, I already mentioned Yvonne Robb, and then Texas, Shaka Smart. We saw what he did with VCU. I think he starts to turn things around in Austin. Those 3 teams all make it to at least the Sweet 16 this year.
If I'm gonna go right off the top of my head just to pick some, I'm gonna pick. I think Kentucky will make it to the Final Four. I think that their team is good. I think they will end up making that crazy run. Like Pokey said, they'll probably lose those games early in the season, and then they'll make that tournament run like they did. I don't think they'll be as low as an 8 seed, but I think they make a tournament run. North Carolina, I think, will make it. I think the experience of that team really will set a fire to them and have them playing some good basketball. Roy Williams always does have them playing good in the playoffs. UCLA is a solid team this year. I'm just naming teams because you never know when it comes tournament time. There's like a 12 seed there.
Yale.
I can tell you who I got penciled in at the Sweet 16 already.
Who?
BYU is going to be in the Sweet 16 this year.
They do have a good score. Yeah, they do. Is Louisville back in the tournament? Is their suspension done? I think I saw.
I think it is.
Screw it. I'll go Louisville. I think Rick Pitino is crazy, and we'll get that team playing well somehow. And
I can definitely see that.
Maybe someone will go up and break their leg, and they'll make a crazy run.
All right. You guys have anything else before we get to the What If Sports Game of the Week?
I think we covered most of it.
Any other notes you want to hit on?
The only other thing I'm going to throw out there is if Marshall can win their conference and make the tournament, I could see them doing a little damage against these guys who aren't used to their run and gun style play. Their new coach came in 3 years ago, and every year they just get better every year. And I think this is the year they make the tournament and they
got
scare
that the Golden State offense.
It really is. Top in offense and bottom in defense.
I gotta get that written down. Save these. Gotta save these because when Marshall is in the Elite Eight, you heard it here first. Our college football predictions are looking pretty good. Brock, you with Louisville?
Yep. Hey, that I knew that wasn't so wild card. I saw his stats from last year, so I was like, yeah, you know what? I think this is his year, and sure enough.
Yeah, I mean our World Series predictions is right there. Game 7 of the World Series. Watch out. We did get it. I did get it wrong.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be in Chicago for Game 7, so watch out. Francisco Lindor, 11th inning walk-off home run tonight.
Yeah, watch out. What If Sports? That's what they said.
That's right. Game 7.
Now, if that happens for real, I'm going to be really concerned.
That's right. So, with that, our What If Sports Game of the Week, we debated for about 15 minutes here pre-show. Best teams in the last decade or so, going head-to-head, one game to win it all. What we decided on was the 2008-2009 North Carolina Tar Heels, which is the middle of the Tyler Hansborough, Ty Lawson, Danny Green era. Young Tyler Zeller, young Ed Davis, young Larry Drew, and then we have them going up against the 2011-2012 Kentucky Wildcats, which is the Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Anthony Davis, Marcus Teague, Terrence Jones. So just absolutely loaded. Kyle Wiltshire, before he transferred to Gonzaga, was on that team, but they're looking stupid now. The final score of that game, 79-70, North Carolina.
Let's go.
Player of the game honors, you can split it between Tyler Hansborough, 19 points, 12 rebounds, and Wayne Ellington, 17 points, 10 assists. It looks like Tyler Hansborough did hold Anthony Davis to 10 points and 8 rebounds only.
He was a crazy rebounder in college. He was so underrated.
Got his nose broken.
Yeah,
game.
he played with so much fire. It just made me love North Carolina that much more. Watching him play, watching him put his body on the line for all those guys, every play was awesome.
Now, I'm going to say something here, and it's going to get Brock pretty heated. But Tyler Hansborough is Grayson Allen when it comes to their style of play.
No, he isn't.
Yeah, he is.
No, he isn't.
He really is.
I hated Tyler Hansborough, but I would love to have had him on my team.
In college, you won't want him in the NBA.
Tyler Hansborough, if I don't remember, had a couple of dirty shots.
Oh yeah.
In his day.
He had a shit.
I think he had a low blow coming at him.
Hey, he's not Grayson Allen.
Blasphemous.
That's blasphemous.
when you play for UNC and you're a dirty player, you're tough and you're gritty. But when you're Duke and you're dirty, you're an asshole.
Nobody said that about Tyler Hansbrough when he was playing. Nobody.
Oh yeah, they did.
Who?
I did. I said I hated him all the time.
He didn't say he was dirty.
I mean,
I'm sure I can look up some Stephen A. And Skip Bayless.
No one wants to hear Skip.
It's probably called. I think it was Cold Pizza still back then. All right, but that's about it. Badgers expectations. All expect them to be either a second or a third seed. Watch out for Florida State from Jordan, Monte Morris as a player to watch out for. Brock, we know to watch out for the Seahawks, and Kevin Keats. But with that, thank you, Jordan, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we'll be able to have you on again. Stay tuned. We will have a NBA show hopefully coming up later this week. But with that, we're out. Get some.
Get some.
What are we at?
No, we didn't do it. I thought it was a lot longer than that, but we did pretty good.
That seemed longer. It'll be about an hour and 2 minutes.
Yeah,
I was wondering if with a third person if it was going to go a little longer.
Especially with college basketball, I thought we would actually go into a little more.
That's why I spent like 2 hours earlier. He's like, I don't need to be looking at that the Florida A&M Rattlers are the worst team in college basketball.
Hey, that's a good stat to have.
See,
they just beat out the Central Connecticut, I don't know, Huskies or something.
See, Florida A&M was like the team I always played in college football back in 04.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's why I skimmed through the UNCW because I didn't know how much time we had. So I pretty much only picked out keywords. Yeah. So I was like, I don't know how much time we have, so I'm just going to go really fast.
Do you have anything in there that you didn't